Welcome back to White Mountains Today. I'm Chelsea, and today we're going to talk about the history of skiing in New England and an event that brings it all together. With us today is Director of the New England Ski Museum, Tim Whiton. Thanks for coming in today, Tim.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So for anyone that doesn't know we have this in town, tell us what the New England Ski Museum is all about.
So the museum as an organization has been around since the late 70s, early 80s. Traditionally has been based out of Franconia Notch. We've got a couple buildings over there, including a very extensive archive building. And then we moved to North Conway, or didn't move. We opened a second location in North Conway 5 years ago. And so it's a great museum. The organization really is dedicated towards understanding where skiing has been, where it is now, and why it is the way it is now, and then maybe where we're going to be going into the future.
And the significance of New England with all of that, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I understand you have both rotating exhibits and ones that stay. Can you tell us about some of those?
Sure. So a little bit of it depends on the location that we're talking about. The Franconia location is more centered around an annual exhibit that changes annually. There's some permanent aspects there, but that facility is a little bit more capable of rapid turnover of things. The location here in North Conway was a little more professionally designed, if you will. The organization spent a lot of money on some outside exhibitors, so it's very polished, it's very dialed, it's very beautiful. It's a little harder to change.
It's more set in stone.
Yeah. So we do have a temporary exhibit space there that we have turned over in the last couple months and more recently in the last couple weeks. But most of the museum is a little bit more on the permanent side. You know, sort of the type of thing if you go to the Met or the Louvre, there's those items that are
They don't
that
really move the Mona Lisa.
They don't, no. They probably
and
shouldn't.
We have our own Mona Lisas.
Yeah, we do. And we certainly do have those items that really should be part of any sort of permanent exhibit. So,
of course.
Both locations, but primarily the North Conway location, which we call the Eastern Slope branch, has a library space as well. It's more of a reference library. It has some children's library options as well. It's a very cozy fireplace too. So when it's snowing like a day like today,
like it is all week, yes.
All week, yes. Just this week this year.
Great for skiing.
Great for skiing. So it's a great community space too, which it's the old North Conway Community Center, which was a basketball court and a lot of community activities and things like that. So we're working on chipping away at some of the permanent exhibit aspects and sort of deconstructing so that we can make it a little bit more interactive, a little bit more, I don't want to say temporary, but be able to turn things over and make it a little bit more exciting and more of a community space and things like that.
So that people can go multiple times and things are changing. That's a good aspect of a museum, of course.
Yes.
And I know we were talking just now how you've been with the company for like probably a year now. What sort of changes has that made for you? What changes have you brought? Yeah,
we haven't changed too much yet.
Yeah, that's what you're saying.
We're going to tiptoe into that world. We are in the midst of a strategic planning process right now with the board and a few other outside folks, and that's going really well. We're asking some big questions about who we are and who we want to be and how we want to continue to be leaders of ski history, leaders in the industry, not just in New England, but around the continent and around the world. So, but we have done some new exhibits. Jeff Leik, who's our previous director, stayed really involved. Thankfully, thank you, Jeff.
Quick thank you.
Yeah, takes some pressure off of my shoulders, and so he's really stayed involved on sort of the back of the house types of things. So he's put together some new exhibits. The most recent one has been sort of twofold. One was to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Jackson Ski Touring Foundation, which really was kind of was a big deal 50 years ago. It was sort of the first community-led, community-driven, community-organized, sort of collaborative land use project to do an extensive community trail network. And then that sort of model has been exported around the country, around North America, and really in some successful ways. So, so that was sort of the first iteration of that. We worked with Ellen Chandler at the Jackson Foundation there, and then Tom Perkins, of course, who's a previous director there and has a very extensive archive himself and is a very good photographer. So, and then we've extended that into more of an exhibit on some of the earlier aspects of the cross-country skiing industry, if you will. Items that you might have found at a ski shop, a local ski shop for cross-country skiing. So, and some items that were at the Carroll Reed ski shop that was right upstairs here. It was right here. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool synergy part. And then our staff has been really great at the Eastern Slope branch, particularly. Elaine Stockbridge has really taken on a lead in terms of adding some kids items. She's
neat. Okay.
Yeah, she's a former teacher, primarily from the Gorham School District, and so there's a lot of old kids photos with some cool captions, some old kids toys that she's found and rustled up.
Well, you get a lot of field trips, of course. So.
Yeah, and well, we're working on getting more of those.
Oh, nice.
We're kind of, still coming out of COVID, and everybody's still, figuring that world out. But yeah, we do have a number of school groups coming through. We do a big push in the fall for that, of course, and we're kind of, unfortunately, sadly, the last museum in town right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's a good option for kids to come in, and we're going to try to turn that stuff over. And we've got some kids.
Such an important significance to skiing here. It needs to stay. It needs to stay. It needs to thrive.
Yes, absolutely.
And I understand you have a huge event coming up that has been around for quite some time. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So next weekend, Friday March 10th through Sunday, March 12th is the 26th, the annual Hannes Schneider Meister Cup event.
Yes.
And it has a race component to it, as any Meister Cup event would. But that's, I don't want to say that's a sideshow because it is a central aspect of the event, but it's really a celebration of the history of skiing in the Mount Washington Valley, the history of skiing at Cranmore in particular. And I would really say, what it has been and what I think we really hope to turn it into even more is a celebration of winter in the Mount Washington Valley.
Oh, absolutely. Which is our bread and butter here.
Yes. Well, it's kind of, what created the town in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
There's obviously been a long history of outdoor recreation in a variety of ways for the last 200 years in the White Mountains. But really in the last 100 years, skiing has helped solidify North Conway, Conway, Cranmore. Is keeping it going for sure.
Absolutely. So the Meister Cup is named after Hannes Schneider. So can you tell us a little bit about his importance as far as skiing and Cranmore and all of that?
Sure. So Hannes Schneider is from St. Anton, Austria, and he was born late 19th century. And he pretty quickly, around just before World War I, kind of invents a new style of skiing, and he starts to teach skiing. And he is a mountain soldier during World War I as well. And he kind of becomes this rock star across Europe and then across the world. And then And he's settled in Austria. There's no hint of him coming to North America. He does in a variety of editions, but he's not moving here. And then Nazis take over in Germany. They spread into Austria, and he's a very loud critic of the Nazis.
Okay.
There's some interesting stories.
They didn't
around.
like those people.
No, and they really did not. And of course, being this Austrian rock star, essentially, he gets put in prison. And then Harvey Gibson, who's here and who's bought Cranmore in the 30s, realizes that he needs, if he's going to make Cranmore the sort of quintessential resort in New England, at that time really in the country, because sort of mechanized skiing has really just started, and he decides he needs a rock star.
Literally.
Literally needs a rock star for skiing. He needs the best ski teacher, because that's at a point too, for the next several decades, ski instructors are kind of hot tickets. In some ways they become hot tickets. And so whoever can figure out this story and write the book on this is gonna make some money and make some friends. Somehow Gibson gets Schneider and his family released from Nazi prison.
Wow.
And gets them on a boat and gets them over here in 1938, 1939. And that's even when, the German U-boats are sinking boats in the North Atlantic like crazy, and this boat gets through.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's very arranged, and at some level, high level of global politics, global political economy, it finds its way through. And then so Schneider gets here, and again, he's a rock star. He's got a name cachet there, and Cranmore takes off. And literally the rest is kind of history from there.
Yeah, like they knew they needed him.
Yeah, they needed somebody like that. And there had been a few sort of Austrian disciples of Schneider that were over in New England, over in the United States teaching skiing, but there wasn't Schneider. And so by bringing him over here, he's able to sort of coalesce his ski school group around him, around Cranmore. And it really, Cranmore really takes off. And eventually the Schneider family ends up owning Cranmore. For quite a few decades there. They're still very involved in the community. Christoph and Hannah, they own Schneiderhof in St. Anton now. And so there's seveal generations of the Schneider family. They're still integral in the valley here. They're integral to skiing, in Europe and around the world. So, but yeah, without that moment, I think there's major questions of does Cranmore succeed? I mean, it probably does because of Gibson, who's a huge personality and has a lot of money. He's one
a little bit of pull.
Yeah, he's got some pull. But without that, I mean, it's how does Cranmore really set itself apart from the multitude of other resorts that open, post 1945 when a lot of the 10th Mountain and a lot of the other mountain soldiers come back, and you have this explosion of mechanized skiing around the region, around North America, but Cranmore's really still able to set itself apart because of Schneider, because of that name, because of that ski school. And so there's this heritage of teaching skiing at Cranmore that's really kept it local, kept it family friendly, and kept it sort of very central to the New England ski industry and the North American ski industry.
Well, very well said, and it's incredible that we continue to commemorate him and his history in the event.
Yeah. Yeah, it's we're very lucky to have that name around and be able to keep that rolling. So.
And keep the spirit alive.
Yes, very much so, very much so.
So the race aspect you were talking about, is that just for professionals?
Oh, no.
Can it be for anyone?
No,
okay.
No, yeah.
Me, not me.
No, anybody can do it. I'm more of a cross country skier.
Okay.
That's kind of been more of my background. I'm considering throwing a pair of skinny skis on and trying to get through some gates.
Okay, so that's the standard there.
Yeah, so it would be a little bit of a sideshow. I'm probably not going to do that, but I'm still considering it.
But is there a level for that?
No.
Okay, so a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, so, we say if you can turn yourself around a few gates, so if you can make a few turns, you can do this.
Okay.
There are a few folks that have turned out in the last couple of years that are former U.S. ski team D team members.
Oh, okay, so,
so
the level goes higher.
The level does go relatively high, but it's a pretty relaxed event. I believe we are going to have one of the Pope family members, who I just talked to one of his sons the other day. I believe he's 91.
Oh,
he's been doing this for a long time, and so I believe he's going to be doing it. And we have some kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old that jump in and turn around the gates. So
4 to 90s.
Yeah, we have a big age spread.
A little bit.
Yeah. And it's roughly 4 or 5 generations worth of skiers.
Yeah.
And most of them have been centered around Cranmore. They knew the original Schneiders, they knew Hannes, they knew the whole family. So yeah, it's a cool event. And so it's a GS race, if you will. 2 runs of that, but pretty relaxed. So
great. Yeah. How do you sign up if you want to compete?
Yeah, so you can go to newenglandskimuseum.org, or you can call one of the museums. We have a variety of ways of doing it. So if you want to be a racer, you can also show up morning of. Saturday morning.
If you decide that morning you're feeling up for it.
Yeah. If you've had a few extra cups of coffee, or or you didn't go home from the Red Parka the night before.
That's a big one.
Show up and decide you want to spin some gates. So there's been a few of those, I'm told. But
oh, good.
Yeah. So or you didn't leave Zips the night before, I guess is really what it is. Because we kick things off on Friday night at Zips.
Great. Tell us about the other events.
So the whole spread of events. So Friday night at Zips, there's a meal component to it, relatively relaxed. the Bavarian Brothers, who are a trio out of Massachusetts primarily. They do your vintage acoustic Bavarian Brothers music.
Oh,
yeah, it's very cool. There's a lot of oompa going around, and it gets you moving. And so, yeah, we kick off in Zips, some few opening remarks. We have a bit of a surprise announcement to make. That will remain a surprise until Friday night.
Gotta go and see it.
I am finding that I am very very bad at keeping secrets. So I'm gonna keep this one
Just don't talk to anyone.
Yeah, I'm not talking to anybody. The rest of this interview is going to be quiet.
Okay, yeah, we won't bring it up again.
So it's a cool kickoff to Friday where there's a torchlight parade, a little bit of reenactment of late 30s, early 40s at Cranmore type of thing.
Yes.
So, and then Saturday morning we kick off, relatively early-ish. Opening ceremonies to that. There's both the museum, ski history in New England, but also Cranmore and the Schneider family has had a very strong relationship to the 10th Mountain Division. So we're going to see Mountain Warfare School out of Northern Vermont, Vermont National Guard, New Hampshire National Guard, and then some descendants of the 10th will be there as well. So,
incredible.
Yeah, so there's a presentation of the colors, there's taps, that sort of thing. And last year Governor Sununu was there. He hasn't committed to being there this year yet, so he better be there this year. There'll be
Heard it.
Yeah, better be there. We're still working some inside channels, and a few other commissioners across the state will be there as well. So, it'll be pretty cool. A few words and things like that, and then we jump into the race. And then throughout that entire day, there's a silent auction with some pretty cool aspects. Part of this surprise will be kicking around and talked about all day long.
Great.
The silent auction's always a huge hit.
Benefits the ski museum.
Yeah, and this whole event benefits the museum. Pretty much everything is donated. We spend pretty much no money of our own on this event,
Incredible.
And which really speaks to Ben Wilcox and the Cranmore crew. This is huge. Yeah, this
huge
is
for
huge.
you.
Yeah, huge for us. So, and the more we can do for this, the better. And then there's lunch, there's beer and brats in the afternoon, there's the Bavarian Brothers music, there's an awards ceremony.
There's some family stuff? Sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, and the big one is the vintage fashion show.
Oh!
Yeah, so it's sort of ostensibly the Carol Reed fashion show. So there's a lot of stuff. We've pulled a bunch of stuff out of our own archive. I will be decked out in a variety of. It'll be vintage to me, perhaps not as vintage to others.
Okay, like we have, somebody's coming who's 91.
Yeah. So there'll be some of that true vintage, some of the original ski attire, and then there'll be some of the 70s, 80s. There'll be some onesies in attendance. Yep, there'll be some neon. There's going to be some good neon in attendance. But we make it a little bit more formal, a presentation. We have the George Cleveland is doing our announcing this year, and so George, of course, has the voice and the authenticity, if you will. So, and so he'll be able to give a little bit of a spiel on each outfit and where it's from and who's wearing it and when it's when you might have seen it at Cranmore. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
That sounds so great.
Yeah, and our volunteer base, Betty Newton is really leading that charge, thankfully. So we're very appreciative of that. So,
but I can see the New England Ski Museum touch on everything.
Yes.
It's about educating. It's about the history.
Yeah. It's sort of both celebrating the heritage of skiing, educating about sort of where skiing has been and how it's gotten here, and it sort of connects a lot of the dots. The Schneiders come over in 1938, 39, and if that doesn't happen, Cranmore doesn't become what it is. The Mount Washington Valley doesn't become what it is. New England skiing, North American skiing, global skiing doesn't turn out the way it does.
Absolutely.
Who knows what it like? I'm not saying it doesn't turn out at all, of course, but it's very different. And I would very much argue that the Mount Washington Valley, North Conway is not what it is today.
Yeah, it wouldn't be what we know, what we love.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So without that, that's. And we really want to celebrate that. We really want to be able to discuss that. And then the next piece is Sunday morning. We end relatively early on Saturday to give people the opportunity to go where they need to go. Zips.
Zips.
Yeah, or other places.
Yes.
And then Sunday morning we reconvene. I think we're going to be at the Eastern Slope Inn, and John Allen, he's the historian on skiing, particularly pre-war. He's written what we think might be his final book. We're going to see if we can squeeze another one out of him. But we've sold 150 copies in the museum. It's been a huge hit. He's been basically on a Northern New England speaking tour. We haven't really billed it as that. He hasn't really thought of it as that, but
it's what he's doing.
But it's what he's doing, and so he's going to be giving another talk for us. So the book title is "Traveling the Old Ski Tracks of New England," and this talk he's very good. John is very understated until you put him, like this, and then he's very good. And he's very knowledgeable in it. It'll be a fun talk. So a more limited seating. I think we're thinking 30 to 40. There's no extra tickets. It's free. It's open to the public.
Just get there early.
Just get there early.
Get there.
Yes.
To your night. Yeah,
exactly. Stay out all night and then get there early. So yeah, it's great, and that's kind of the weekend, and then we start planning for next year.
Great, yeah. Next ski season, of course.
Next ski season, yeah. Not that this one's done yet, but yeah.
We got time.
It's
snowing.
Yes, it is.
Well, tell everyone how to get tickets to the Ski Museum.
Yeah, so you can go to meistercup.org, which just links you right back to newenglandskimuseum.org. All of the info's there. There's racer registration people can still do either online or in person. All the links are there. We do have a patronage of the event as well. Sort of like you might patronize, the opera or a museum, another museum or a library or things like that.
Yeah.
It's really just an opportunity for you to get your name out there publicly, because we do publicly thank these people in the paper, online, social media, things like that, in our journal that comes out every quarter. And that's just an opportunity to donate to the museum, essentially, and donate to the event and be part of it in that way. So we do sell tickets just generally for the event. They get you a day's pass and access to some food and beer and some other festivities on Saturday. Yep. So it's just a great opportunity to be involved. So yeah, check it out.
A million things to do, something for everyone.
Yes.
That's amazing. We hope to see everyone there.
Yes.
If not at the event, at the museum.
Yep. Yeah, we had an open house last Friday. It was big. It was almost 200 people there.
Wow.
Throughout the night. Not all at once. We don't want the fire marshal to think there was 200 people there all at once.
No.
Throughout the night.
Total count.
Yeah, total count was about 200.
That's amazing.
Cathedral Edge Distillery was there. They were doing some not schnapps, but they were doing some aquavit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there. We had some family sickness, unfortunately, so everybody's better now. But I was really bummed to miss the aquavit. So.
And the incredible event.
Yeah. That part of things too. So, yeah, it's so we're really trying to kind of stir things up a little bit. Even as we get into off-season, mud season, we're going to be sort of cranking away and rebuilding out some other exhibits and some other programming and things like that. So we've got a lot going on here in both locations and just around the region as well. So
it's a great place to go and appreciate, donate while ski season isn't happening too.
Yes.
You can just miss it.
Yes. Well, ski season's always happening. You're right.
It's
a mindset.
It's a mindset.
Yeah. Especially in
state of being.
Yeah, it's a state of being, especially in the valley. I mean, where you can just about scratch out 12 months of skiing somewhere around here.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, or hop on a plane and go to South America too.
There you go. There's a plan there too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all the info.
Yes.
And all the websites to go to again. HeinzSchneider.com, you said?
Meistercup.org or newenglandskimuseum.org.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again, Tim, for coming.
Thank you.
And you're watching White Mountains Today.